Was there any player that you wanted to sign but you couldn't sign?
That I couldn't sign?
Yeah, or you didn't sign?
Alan Shearer, yeah. Turned me down twice, the bastard. What's happened to him?
Are you Alex Ferguson in disguise?
Yeah, I know.
Welcome to The Rest is Football with me, Gary Lineker, Micah Richards and Alan Shearer. On today's episode, we have a special guest. As we are close to the transfer window, we thought we would get an agent in. But not any old football agent, but a very old football agent. One of the first ever to ply his trade and someone who has been a huge part of my life for 45 years. My agent, Jon Holmes. He's looked after Peter Shilton, Tony Woodcock, John Barnes and numerous others, as well as big stars from other sports. He's been the chairman of Leicester City, been involved in the administration of sport. He's also got his own podcast, one of my very favourites actually. It's called Football Ruined My Life with Jon, Paddy Barclay and Colin Schindler, and it's a pod that looks at football when it didn't exist. A bygone pre-Premier League era. I highly recommend it, particularly those of a certain age who like to reminisce, and also for young people that like to know about old football, and there are a lot of people like that. Good morning, Jon. Welcome.
Good morning.
This is a first for us. We've 45 years together, and I'm interviewing you. This is a bit weird, but Micah and Alan will jump in as well. Start by telling us, how did you get involved in being an agent, particularly back then, because it wasn't really a thing?
No, people thought I was completely balmy. I was a big fan of Arnold Palmer, and I learnt a bit about Arnold Palmer and how he sort of took golf from being a minority sport of the English-speaking nations around the world. And that was the master plan of a man called Mark McCormack, who virtually invented the idea of an agent. He virtually invented worldwide the idea that sportsmen could be exploited and grown into a brand. Arnold Palmer became a brand. And I thought, this sounds a lot better than working to me. I think I'll have a go at this. So I convinced the businessman in Leicester that this was a really good idea and he should back me. And he said, okay, I'll teach you about money and investing money as a sort of sideline, and you try and make a business out of this. And that's how it started. How
do you get a player? How did you get your first client?
That was a person called Peter Shilton,
I know.
As you probably know.
Wasn't a bad one to have, was it, the first one?
It wasn't. Bless him. Wonderful bloke. If I do ascend to the pearly gates and anyone, and St. Peter comes out and says, well, what have you done? I say I looked after Shilts for 21 years and kept him out the course most of the time. And I think that was pretty good. He was a challenge, but of course Peter was. And one of my favourite people, he was a fantastic goalkeeper. Whatever anyone tells you about modern goalkeepers, Shilts was an extraordinary goalkeeper. He made saves that I've never seen anyone else. He won games. Brian Clough used to say he was the difference between a 1-0 defeat and a 1-0 victory. It started, and then I got someone who Gary and I both know called David Gower, who I've been looking after reasonably eventfully for more than 40 years. And then of course, famously, this young lad wandered into my office with a minder, didn't say a lot, just grunted a bit and smiled a bit and sort of went, okay, yeah. And that was someone you know quite well, Gary, really.
Yeah, me. I was shy, Jon. I was shy.
He was shy. He was a very, very shy chap with no controversial opinions at all. So
nothing's changed.
No, he never caused any political waves. And I don't think, I mean, he thought the only parties worth going to were political parties weren't into it. He's more interested in other kinds of parties, but there we are.
I think you're confusing me for Micah.
Jon, if I could take you back, you mentioned looking after Gary from a young age, but have you seen a difference within his character going from footballer to broadcaster? Has he become more confident, or is he always been a shy type of guy?
Spill the beans, Jon.
I'll tell you, Yes, he was shy. And the one thing, he was a pretty rubbish footballer, Micah. I can remember, I watched his first game. It was a freezing New Year's Day at Leicester. He played on the right wing. He spent the first half hour falling over. And I said to my father, he's bloody hopeless. Where the hell have we got him?
You ever tried carrying those years around? You'd fall over as well, by the way.
Yeah, but the thing was with Gary Micah that he was actually quite a good learner. And I did notice that if you said something to him, or he met someone who clearly knew something about something, what you'd find was, about 2 hours later, he was quoting what the person had told him as though it was him that had thought of it. So he was a very quick learner.
Still do that.
Respect. We did have this conversation quite famously. I can actually remember where it was. It was I think it was at the pub at Great Glen, Gary. And I said to you one day, what would you have done if you hadn't been a footballer? And because I knew he was a bit of a smart ass, he just said, I'd have been a cricketer. Typical. So
but true.
I said, OK, what if I've broken both your legs? And he said, well, I'd like to have been a journalist, sports journalist, but I can't do that now. So I said, why? So he said, because I've not got the training. And I said, listen, I've been a journalist. The only training is the training you're given first day, how to fiddle your expenses. That's it. Don't worry about it. You can ask any journalist of my sort of age. That's what they were taught. So, and we sort of devised a bit of a plan, didn't we, Gary? We said, when you're a sportsman, you get loads of opportunities to be interviewed, take every one, and listen to them and watch them back. See what, you'll know. Was that good? Was that bad? Was that funny? Was that not funny? Was that answer too long and all that sort of thing? So we did that. And much to his chagrin, I said, you must write stuff down and so on. I can't write. Yes, you can. You can talk. You can write. Write it down. Read better stuff. Read stuff that challenges you a bit. You'll expand your language. You'll do all sorts of things. And actually, it's amazing what you can learn. Gary's development as a broadcaster, sparing he's blushing now, is due to the fact that he's always sought improvement and so on. Therefore, he's got more interested in things like politics and other issues, world governance of football and so on, that other players perhaps haven't been encouraged to do, or not that they're not capable of doing. Of course they're capable of doing it.
Yeah, that's enough about me, John. Let's ask Micah and Alan what they think about me. No, not at all. Tell us a bit about what you've got some amazing stories from way back, particularly around Peter Shilton and
yes.
Brian Clough. You've got to tell us about your relationship.
There are one or two, but the great moment with Clough, I'd never met Clough before Peter signed for Nottingham Forest, and Peter had to leave Stoke because Stoke got relegated. Their stand blew down and they were bust. And Forest had just got promoted. Clough, we'd always known, fancied signing Shilts. And so one Friday night in about early September 1977, I think it was, I got summoned down to the City Ground with Peter to meet Brian Clough with the views of signing.
You were very young at the time, John, weren't you? It was for an age.
I was 27. Yeah. So there was Clough. This sort of. He was already, he was a figure. He'd been on TV. He'd been on Parkinson's show. He'd done lots of things, and so we went in, and Peter Taylor, who was his assistant, was there. He was desperate to sign Shilts. He idolised Shilts, if truth be known. And we waited there for half an hour. No Clough. Taylor, who was getting increasingly agitated, he'll be coming. He'll be here. And went to about 45 minutes. And Shilts was getting a little bit agitated. And I thought, we don't need to wait much longer. Otherwise, we're looking fools here, desperate to sign. So waited. So I said to Peter Taylor, if he doesn't come soon, let's face it, the manager doesn't want him. We're going to go, Peter. Oh, no, he's coming. Anyway, about 2 or 3 minutes later, mysteriously, after Taylor went outside, I suspect Clough had been in the next room the whole time, probably watching. Clough emerges, walks into the room, walks straight up and kicks me.
You've got something in common with Alan Shearer.
He did the same.
So he just kicked me. So, who are you? So Shilts says, this is Jon. Jon's looking after me. Oh, right. Jon's going to do the wages and sort that sort of stuff out. So, and then he looked straight at me and said, listen, young man, you've made one club go bust. You're not going to do it to Nottingham Forest. So I said, no, I'm afraid Peter is on his wages, and there was an inflation clause, and it wasn't my fault that inflation was 20% the next year, and his wages have gone up, and he's on a lot of money. Neither was it my fault that their stand fell down, and they'd forgotten to insure it. But there you are. So Clough then went, and then he went out of the room, and then emerged with a plastic supermarket bag full of a lot of £20 notes and said, this is a tax-free payment. So I said, well, not completely. Anyway, I was called a financial virgin. There was all sorts of discussions going on. It was very funny. Then, after sort of 2 hours of this comedy routine and so on, where we'd not got very far on the money or the nature of what was a tax-free payment or whatever. And then he said, outside. So I went outside. I had no idea what was going to happen. So we walked outside. You go into the car park. It's a Friday night, city ground. There's no one there. These days there'd be press all over the place and fans and all of it, but there's no one there. And so we walk around the ground. And he's got a squash racket in his hand. So he goes, right, what do you want? So I said, Peter's got to have this deal. We've got to get somewhere near it. I said, I know you can't do the whole lot, and it's one, but he really would like to play with you, but you've got to make this proper competition, not a massacre. It's got to be right. He's keen to play for you. We think Forest could do well. So. What do you get? You misunderstand me. I said, what do you want? So I said, that's what I want. Who pays you? So I said, Peter does. Right, inside. So then we go inside. I thought at that point he was probably going to hit me or something. But anyway, we went inside and the deal's off then. And we went away. And then that was Friday night. Then Saturday afternoon, I'd played golf or something. And curiously, then Clough announced that he signed Peter Shilts. And I thought, what have you done, Shilts? You've gone and signed something. I rang Shilts up and said, Shilts, have you signed for Forest? He said, no, Jon, no, I wouldn't do that. No, he was good like that. Peter knew how to, he wasn't going to cave in or fall into. He's pretty determined. And that was just one of Clough's gimmicks. He would say this. He did the same thing with Ian Storey-Moore, if you remember, paraded him on the pitch at Derby, told everyone he'd signed him, and he hadn't. He'd signed for Man United. Poor old Ian Storey-Moore, he didn't know who the hell he'd signed for. That was Clough.
Brilliant. I'm just saying about how the game has changed massively. I mean, whether you talk about on the pitch, whether you talk about health off it, everything. How's your business changed from when you started to what it is now?
The good thing about what went on then, or the way I tried to do it, was I always encouraged the player to be in on the negotiation because I thought it was a learning thing.
Yeah.
Gary, you remember we went up to Everton.
Tell them about what happened to Everton.
Well, the great thing, this is just negotiating. Yeah. Footballers, pathetically, they told them how much they were going to earn a week, not how much a year. If you went for a proper job in those days, they told you your salary will be $18,000 a year or something, or $20,000 a year. You went to a football club, you'll get £100 a week, son, or whatever it was. So it was it was a different way. So I would always talk in terms of years or whatever, and if they would talk one way, I'd be swapping it round. And we went up to Everton, and there was Howard was in there doing the negotiations. Great bloke, but not really. Howard had never been trained in doing negotiations. And Jim Greenwood, the secretary. Anyway, then I started, as Gary will recall, we were fiddling about between weeks and months and all that, and signing on fees and this bit and that bit and so on. They've no idea what I'm saying now. I've confused them sufficiently. We'll get an offer, but whatever you do, don't accept it. Anyway, we went back in and they made an offer which was actually quite a bit more than we'd originally asked for. So I said, right, okay, well, that's interesting. Can we have another break? And hoping that to hell that Gary wasn't going to blurt in by saying we didn't ask for that.
I was nudging your knee under the table.
Yes, you were, and I was just trying to not repeat it. So we went outside and he said, that's more than you asked them for, isn't it? I said, yes, and you did absolutely correctly. We will go in now and say, yes, but if you do something a little bit extra. So there were techniques and so on that you could use, and you weren't negotiating then against people who knew much about business.
One question before we take a little breather. The agency world has changed, and obviously transfers have changed dramatically now. And I've heard you talk about it frequently, in the sense that agents now don't just represent the player in a deal; they can actually represent the selling club and the buying club at the same time, which it opens it up to all sorts of shenanigans, doesn't it?
Correct. I think it's completely wrong, Gary. You cannot, in which case, who are they really representing? Yeah. It's completely wrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just trying to make the point that nowadays, we would do a deal. I would pay you. The footballer would pay the agent. Now, the clubs, both the selling club and the buying club do it, and the player probably, I don't know. How do you change that?
The amount that goes out of the game to agents that clubs pay, how many scouts could you employ for the amount of money that goes out to these people? It's extraordinary. And players have been conned for a long time by the agent saying to them, he's saying, how do you get paid? And he said, oh, no, don't worry about that, son. The club will pay you. And he thought, oh, that's good, because I'm not having to, it's not costing me anything. Well, if you think it through, who is the agent then representing? The agent's representing the club. And I think what has developed now is that the big agents mostly are almost retainers from big clubs. They will go to a player at one of the clubs who's not so big and say to that player, I can get you to Man United, or I can get you to Liverpool, or whatever. Now, actually, the truth is, if you're a good enough player, you can get there anyway. You don't need the agent. What you need is someone to work out whether that's necessarily the right move for you and get the right package out of that club, which is not in the buying club's interest. Therefore, if you've got somebody acting on both sides, who is he really acting for? You know, the club will say to him, we'll buy him, but you need to convince him that that's the maximum we'll pay. Really? That's not acting in the player's behalf, is it?
No. Okay, let's take a breather. When we come back, we'll come round to perhaps the administration of the game and how it's run nowadays, and club ownership, which will be fascinating as well. Let's take a breather. Welcome back to The Rest is Football with me, Gary Lineker, Micah Richards, Alan Shearer, and today my agent of 45 years. Yes, 45 years. Jon Holmes. Let's go back to, what was it, year about 2000. Leicester City went into administration. It looked like they were going to go to the wall. I remember getting a call from you saying, we've got to do something. And we managed to get enough people together with just about enough money to get us out of administration. And you became chairman of Leicester City Football Club, and quite a successful chairman, actually.
Very successful. Most successful ever on ratio.
You were very short. It was a fairly
Very short-lived, yeah. Only lost one game.
That must be very different. Could you suddenly get into the administrative side of football? But it was an interesting time.
It wasn't what I wanted to do. I think, talk to a lot of fans and they would say, oh, it must have been dream job and everything else. I'd always known it's not actually a very nice job, in that the fans don't love it. Very, very rare that fans love a chairman. When you see the way that some genuine fans have become chairman and ended up being abused, I particularly think about Bill Kenwright, who was a guy that I knew quite well, decent guy. Absolutely, Everton was his life. Everton, he was a real proper fan. He ended up, being advised not to go to the game because people having go. How bad is that? It's just awful. And some of the people who are chairman of clubs, they're not people I want to associate with. I always thought the worst thing about being chairman of the club, some of these people came as chairman, and Ken Bates. Who wants to be nice to Ken Bates? I didn't. So it's not a great job. The manager always wants at least two players. Two players, that's a minimum. Probably 4 or 8. The fans, they want you to sign. They want you to get your money out. They want get your wallet out. I haven't got any. You're talking about now competing with countries and mega wealthy individuals and hedge funds and so on. No individual can do that, and it's not the chairman's fault often.
When you were chairman, you're talking about owners of football clubs now. We've seen an influx of US owners in the Premier League. What do you think of that? And do you think there's a danger that we could be led down a certain path where we don't want to go in terms of football?
Yes. I think, let me say this about US sport is in general administered very well. I think that they cottoned on quite early to the dangers of gambling. There was the fixing of the baseball in 1919, the Shoeless Jackson case, and they worked out that you had to be better administered. The power in American sport in general lies with the leagues rather than with the clubs. Their sports, they've had commissioners for a long time, which I think is a good idea. The power lies within the leagues rather than the clubs being able to run off. What we had was a situation where the clubs, the big clubs, threatened to run off from our league and break up what was, for many years, a very successful system. And the Premier League was formed. And you can't knock everything that's gone on in the game sense. Whether it would have gone on anyway, I don't know. But I'm not convinced that football and what it represents probably to I know to you, Alan, because you are Newcastle, that's your club. You've always felt that's it's part of your identity. It runs through your DNA and everything. And with Gary, it does as well. He's Leicester, like me, and so on. I'm not sure about Micah. Are you...
Feel a bit of Arsenal,
Depends
a bit
which
of
day
Leeds,
you
a
asked
bit
me.
of...
Or
yeah,
is your
bit Man City.
club a nightclub in Manchester? I'm not sure.
Love it.
We are, at least 3 of us anyway, he'll have to reveal his hand in a bit. That's what football represents to us. It's part of our identity. And these people have come in now, and the clubs, and part of this is television's fault, because Gary and I are Leicester fans, because that's where we went. You were a Newcastle fan, because that's where you were taken. You remember your first game. The experience of going, and in our podcast, a little plug here, Football Ruined My Life, we have talked to lots of people, and they all remember that first game, where they've been, the experience. And it wasn't actually the football that turned them on. It was the crowd, the pitch, the colours, the atmosphere of the place took you over. Now it's become much more abandoned, and kids will now, because they don't actually go, because they don't get that experience, and because television has taken over, everybody watches, they can say, even though they live in London, I'm a Liverpool fan, I'm a Man United fan, and all around the world people will say, It's one of the successes of the Premier League, as it happened, that they're this club or that club fan.
What's the attraction of American owners? Why are they so interested when actually it's not really one of their sports?
They're interested because they see the business model. They see the support that can generate. Even in the 1960s, if you went out abroad, even then, as I did, you could say Bobby Charlton if you went abroad, and people knew who Bobby Charlton was, Stanley Matthews, even at that stage. Now, of course, everybody knows which club do you support. You go into the African jungle and you look at these scenes from all these war scenes and famine scenes. There are football shirts there of English clubs. Extraordinary.
But, John, we talked about the American owners, and surely for you as an agent, it's helped your business massively. The more money that's in the league has obviously helped the deals be greater as well. So it's not only just helped the players and the owners, it's actually helped the people who are within the game also, no?
Of course. And now the players are rewarded as they should be, like top-class entertainers. Still seems to me that actually the people who get the most out of it and the real biggest sums are actually the club owners, as they, play with assets that they think are worth millions and millions, and goes on. I would never begrudge the amount of money that players have made out of it. Neither can I say that it's not been to my financial advantage. Of course it has. I did predict that this would happen. I've said all the way through, when people say, when Trevor Francis was signed for £1 million, and people say, what an enormous amount that is, and they're not worth it, and all this nonsense. But the progress has been there because the underlying product was so good, and the way it has developed, and going to a football match now, it's a better experience in many ways. I mean, you sit on nicer seats, you've got a better view. Not often do people pee in your pocket. There's all sorts of things that have improved. The pies haven't improved that much, as I recall. The prawn sandwiches have in the really posh areas, but there are a lot of things that are still scope. But going to a football match is probably a better experience. The hooliganism has been contained to a degree, not entirely. And the standard of play is astonishing now. The pitches are astonishing. You watch, there's this thing, the Big Match Revisited on ITV4, and you watch the pitches they were playing on, and you think, how on earth did anyone complete a pass at that point as the ball went from, bumbled in the air twice and then sunk in a puddle? Now they relay the pitch every other week, don't they? It's much, much better. And the players have better, they're better coached. They have much, much better advice on nutrition, all that sort of thing. But the one thing you have got for the players, which is the danger, is they're all told you're earning enough money now so that you never have to work again in your life. But that's like dying at 35, isn't it? You then realise, hold on, I've got 40 plus more years to live here. I can't play golf every day all the time.
Alan can.
I've got to do something to keep myself going. You can't all be managers. There are a lot of dangers for players now, and they're surrounded not least by agents who, a lot of them, I don't think care. They're just for the next deal, how much they can make, because they're paid by the clubs and not by the player alone. How many players go through their career and have the same agent the whole way through? They've either been ripped off or something like that. A lot of these people, they say they've got exams and qualifications for it. This exam that FIFA are doing, like 11,000 people applied for the last exam. I mean, 11,000. The bulk of whom came from this country. You've got more bloody agents than you've got players. It's ludicrous. And they're signing them at 12 years old.
Was there any player that you wanted to sign but you couldn't sign?
That I couldn't sign?
Yeah, or you didn't sign?
Alan Shearer, yeah. Turned me down twice, the bastard. What's happened to him?
Are you Alex Ferguson in disguise?
No.
Well, you sort of looked after him, didn't you? Because you merged for a period, didn't you, with Alan's agent?
Your agent, Tony was a completely different person to me. Very, very different in lots of ways. Very good agent, honourable agent, and did a very good job. But a different style to me. That didn't matter. You know, certain styles suit certain people and so on.
Quickly before you go, John, you said your style of approach to a player. What was your style? And if I was a player coming through now, I'm 18, I've got the world at my feet. I'm not going to use the word burst on the scene. That is so 2 years ago. I've exploded on the scene. I'm scoring goals. I'm doing the absolute...
That didn't happen.
What was your approach? Sell yourself to me.
Right. What I would say, first of all, my approach was that I would take a long-term view. I don't want you to sign a long-term contract. I'm interested in you, your development, your career, not just the next move. You have to weigh up where you are at that moment. A lot of the time, players move quite young. They move out of their hometown a long way away. Alan was lucky. Alan went all the way from the northeast down to Southampton, probably as a fairly terrified kid. You probably haven't any idea where Southampton was or what they represented and so on. So that worked for you at Southampton, probably because someone at the club looked after you properly. Dave Merrington, was it? Or whatever.
Dave Merrington. Well, Jack Hickson, he took me down there as a scout.
Correct.
Yeah.
There were people, and what players require at that stage of their career is actually a mentor, someone who's going to just think with them about all the circumstances in their lives. You know, what sort of family they come from, what the home background is like. These days, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, you get the fathers coming in saying, well, how much money is in it for me? Which is really unfortunate, and a situation, is difficult to deal with, because the father does have influence clearly over the young player. So I was interested in a long-term view.
Well, that was even the case, John, wasn't it? If you go back to me, right, you'd started looking after me because of Jock Wallace brought you in, the then Leicester manager, to talk to players about pensions, and that was that first meeting where I just didn't really say anything. And from there on in, obviously you overlooked my shocking debut, which I totally agree with you. And we had a meeting. You said you'd look after me and guide me and mentor me because you obviously saw something. And I think you looked after me for 8 years before you took a single penny out of my wages or anything. Yeah. And in 45 years, we've never had a contract.
No, that's correct.
Never.
That was the way it worked, because we developed a sort of relationship. Now, tell you the other thing, I always used to have these kids come to me. I want to be a football agent. Oh, why do you want to be a football agent? I know everything about football. So we used to say to them, okay, who's the manager of Port Vale? And then they'd go, I don't know that. So I'd say, right, where is Port Vale? And they'd go,
Stoke.
Up north.
Up north.
And that would be, and say, well, you don't know everything about football, you see, because all right, you know everything about Arsenal or Liverpool or that, but you're not going to get a player right at the top straight away. You're going to have to find a player lower down the league and work. Look at the job John Morris has done with Jamie Vardy. He's looked after him from when he was a player with Stocksbridge Steels. It's gone all the way through. I've great admiration for what they've done. And, there have been occasions when Jamie could have moved on from Leicester. And I think John Morris and what have you, you can create something there by, stamping your identity, your DNA with Leicester on it. And he's done really well out of that. I think that's, I think it can make a really, really big difference to a player. I think you look at certain players, I'm not going to name because it would be invidious, to be honest, that have moved to clubs and you've gone, that was not a good move. They've either gone abroad when they're too young or just because it was it sounded a good move or what have you. Gary had the chance a year before he moved from Leicester to go to Bari, wasn't it, Gary? They came on.
Yeah, it was.
And you remember we said, no, it's not right. And I can remember speaking to your dad, and your dad, who's a brilliant influence, said, it's too early, isn't it, John? And I said, yeah, it is. It's too early. It's not right. And when it came to the Liverpool or Everton thing, I can remember we were weighing it up, and your dad said to me, what do you think? And I laid out the reasons why I thought Everton at that point, because Liverpool still had Rush, it was the year before the World Cup. I did think Gary needed to move at that point from Leicester. I thought the World Cup was the biggest thing out. That's what we were focused on at that point, and we plumped at that point for Everton. And you probably say to me that was the best move of the lot. Who knows? But it was and your dad said to me, you think that's right? And I said yes, and laid out the reasons, and we did it. So it's a mentoring experience, and you do have to think that agents shouldn't have exams in regulations and all that. They should have exams in ethics and intentions, but you can't have those. So I'm afraid that's where it is.
Yeah, John, it's been fascinating. We've spoken many times about all these sort of things over the years. This was a wee bit different, but thoroughly enjoyed it. And on behalf of the Rest is Football, thank you very much, and we'll no doubt speak later.
Before I go, can I put in a plug for my son's podcast for all Leicester fans?
Absolutely, it's very good. Yeah.
Yes, the big, strong Leicester boys. And, of course, you remember Football Ruined My Life, which in my case, it didn't. But go there. Enjoy. Yeah, it's been a great pleasure to talk to all of you.
Pleasure, John.
Highly recommend both podcasts. I listen to them both. Thank you very much, John.
Thanks, John. Thank you. Thanks.
Well, that was a little bit different for me, although I've heard him talking for many, many years, and John can talk. But fascinating, no?
Brilliant. Some great stories in there. Some funny ones about Cloughie, and yeah, brilliant.
No, I just find him fascinating. I just love the fact that speaking to someone who's been with you for 45 years and their opinions and how things change and his views on things, because a lot of people talk badly about agents, and I've had some bad experience with agents, but agents do good things as well. So it's nice to hear it from his perspective, which I thought was really refreshing, to be honest.
Yeah, he's played a huge part, not just in my football life, but my post-football life. No question about that. We're all on Match of the Day on Saturday, three of us together. Yeah.
Back together. The band is back.
The band is back together. Lovely.
Tough week, really, Alan, for you. Another competition. God, 92nd, 93rd minute equalised for Chelsea.
We were together, weren't we, at the Sports Personality, so I didn't see the match, but I was on my phone. And I was sat behind Andy Robertson. And as you know, we were on stage together for Kenny and his Lifetime Achievement Award. And just before we got on stage, he showed me his phone he just passed his phone back, and he had the score on 1-0. So I was like, yes, get in, come on. And then, of course, the night went on, and then we went for a drink afterwards. And I'm looking at it, 90 minutes, and I think it's come up 4 extra minutes, and we're still winning 1-0. And then I put my phone back in my pocket, and then, 2 or 3 minutes later, my phone was beep, like buzzing, vibrating. But I'm thinking, either the final whistle's gone, which is great, or they've equalised. And I picked my phone out, and there's 1-1. I'm thinking, oh my God. So I eventually got the game on my phone for the penalties, and God, it was a disaster.
Such a shame. The wait goes on. The wait goes on. FA Cup, that's all that's left, isn't it, now this season again? Oh, dear. Oh, we should actually, while we're on it, a victory for football in Sports Personality of the Year as well. Maria, so I think he's actually a genuinely, and I said to her actually for all the stuff on there, I said, you are a great goalkeeper. She really is a good goalkeeper, Mary Epps, and I was so pleased for her.
Yeah, it was great. She really enjoyed it, and so she should. You could tell it. She had a great night and thoroughly deserved it.
Lovely person as well, though. She came on League of Her Own, so I've sort of met her a couple of times, and she's just passionate. She loves the job, and I think she's going to be a great pundit when she's finished, because she has got personality and she's a great player, and fully deserved. Fair play to her.
Yeah, big game this weekend.
Ooh, the Arsenal!
Liverpool Arsenal, yeah. Top 2.
I hope it's better than the big game last weekend, Liverpool Man United, don't you? I'm sure it will be, won't it?
I mean, every now and again you get one of those games, and don't you? Liverpool, Man United, where there's so much at stake, sometimes it just kind of peters out and there's too much fear of losing, maybe. I don't know what it is. But obviously, with sport,
exactly.
sometimes
I
you
agree.
get duds, and that was one. But I think Liverpool-Arsenal will be a terrific game. I'll see you chaps on Saturday. Yeah.
See you Saturday. Look forward to it.
Are you going to bring in anything? I mean, it's 2 days before Christmas. So are we going to bring anything for the lads? Chocolates or some mulled wine?
I've already sent you my presents, as you well know. Those beautiful
You've been
Walker's
sponsored for 40
sharing
years.
packs.
He demolished them. He did them about half an hour after
I'll
we
get
finished
onto
the other
Walker's,
day.
Micah, and get you sent some more. I'm sure they won't mind.
Yes,
they won't
please.
Mind.
It would be nice.
They
It would
won't
be
mind
nice.
at all. Well, actually, all that's left to say really is that everybody please have a very Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Here, here.
Here, here.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Here, all right, Gabby Logan. Here, here.
What?
Did you see?
Yeah, she did well, didn't she?
God, yes.
She did well,
I was
didn't
behind
she?
stage, but I was thinking that it's actually on a serious note, for a presenter, it's your worst nightmare when you've got people shouting in your ear because the programme's overrunning. I know what you're referring to here. The fact that she had to interrupt. There were 2 speeches, weren't there, where there were interruptions because they were long speeches, and live television you have to end at a certain time, even if you overrun for a little bit. And the worst thing for a presenter, and I've had it myself, is that when you've got the director or the producer or the editor, whatever you want to call it, shouting in your ear, going, "You've got to get in, you've got to interrupt, we're overrunning," and then you pick your moment. I had something like that. Can you remember when Pele came for the I think it was in 2000, the sportsman of the century or something like that, and he was getting a special award, and he was on the stage, and he started talking. He went on and on and on, and he kept going, and I'm with him, and I've in my ear they're going, "You've got to interrupt him, you've got to stop him, we're overrunning," and I'm thinking there is no way that I am going to interrupt Pele from his speech. I'm just thinking, no. As a presenter, I think sometimes in those circumstances, you've just got to go, leave the problem to someone else. No, because I refused to do it, and he went on a little bit, and no one can do anything. They can't, run on and shut someone up. So just let them, just let them finish. Don't worry about the fact the programme's overrunning. Let someone else solve that problem.
It was brilliant. I mean, what Micah's, I think his name was Des Smith, wasn't he? He was telling about the great work that he'd done, and he was building a pavilion for his sports team or club and what have you. And I mean, he was like so passionate about it, and it was brilliant to listen to. But it did go on a little bit, and I was sat next to Jon Bishop. Jon Bishop looked at me and he went, sake, he said, "They've actually finished the pavilion." It's by the time he's ended talking.
Lovely guy. And actually, Gabby's timing was brilliant. Perfect. It was like a tackle, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Just outside the box. Boom, bang, in you go.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, everyone. We'll speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye from me.
Merry Christmas. Goodbye from me.
All the best, everyone. Thank you. Cheers.